Hello and a warm welcome. You've joined us on Commodity Central right here on ET Now. I'm Ashesha Dwaryu, and today on the show we are going to put the spotlight on the yellow metal. We've seen a lot of volatility, especially on the back of West Asia crisis. So what is leading to this? What's the outlook and what's happening within the gold industry? To understand that in greater detail, we are now joined by Mr. Jain of Gold Council, World Gold Council, now joining us. Mr. Jain, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now, and you're joining us from the sidelines of a conference. So let's start with that. That's the Swarnim Udaan 2047 launch, which outlines a strategic vision to transform India's gold ecosystem from a traditional store of wealth into a strategic national asset. If you can take us through the rationale, what the event is all about, and what are the key takeaways, most importantly.
First and foremost, a big thanks to you to get us on the platform. And as you rightly said, Swarnim Udaan is not just a report on the gold industry. It's a strategic roadmap for the gold business, but also how gold can become an important pillar for India becoming a superpower. And what we've done is we've studied the whole outline of what 2047 envisions, what are the possibilities for India, and how gold truly can be transformed into this long-term vision. And there are 4 or 5 areas of work that we've done around it. We studied the futurist, we've worked with the government, and we looked at how the industry and the industry participants, but we looked at 5 or 6 broad areas of work in this. Firstly, we think if the right levers are pressed, India will mine its own gold. And in the next decade, we believe between 20 to 25% of the gold that we consume has the potential to come from our own mines. And that'll kick off foreign direct investment, that'll kick off employment and other areas. We think the second pillar is around how India can become the jeweler to the world, and how manufacturing needs to propel, how understanding of the global markets need to propel. Like today, we export about 100 tons of gold, but that's purely true for the Indian diaspora, and how we expand that to the global consumption, and that can expand on. The third is on the financialization of gold. And we all know that one of the largest mines in the world is the gold sitting in our households. And how can that translate and come into the formal ecosystem to build up capital, to bring liquidity and other areas of digitization? That's the third broad pillar. The fourth pillar is the consumer itself and how the consumer is evolving. The notions are changing, the requirements are changing, the brands will become important. I think that's the fourth area of work. And the fifth is how gold can be strategically looked at into future industries of microprocessing, of aerospace travel, and globally, about 8% of the world's gold is used for AI chips and supersonic chips. And India has not as yet become a dominant player there, and we think that could be a very important area. So these are the 4 or 5 key areas on which Swarnim Udaan 2047 is built on.
Okay, so that's as far as the long-term vision is concerned and how India could be a big player in the global gold market. But Mr. Jain, let's also talk a little bit about short and medium term and look at the kind of volatility that we have seen in the gold prices on account of West Asia crisis. And after a staggering 65% rally in calendar year 2025, gold prices are now down nearly 6% on a year-to-date basis. What are you gathering in terms of demand trends, both in the domestic market as well as in the international market?
I think this correction is something that is not very surprising in the sense that we were, in some way, the markets had totally heated up in January, and we've seen some corrections there. But I think the important thing is to look at gold's price not from the peak of January till now, but look at from a 12-month perspective and 24-month perspective. Now, a year back from today's pricing, we're still 40% up. I mean, that's very important and important limit that we have to maintain. Now, from a perspective, when the prices have corrected to the current levels, we've seen a lot of dip buying, a lot of consumers who hadn't sort of entered the rally at those levels of prices are entering the gold category. And that's one of the things. Now, in India, we've seen after the clarion call of the Prime Minister on the 10th of May, there have been some changes. The custom duties have gone up. And we've just released our last quarter results, which actually are not that negative. I mean, we would have perhaps anticipated that after the clarion call, there could have been a big drop in the demand of gold. It hasn't been that case compared to the same quarter last year.
Okay, and what is the sense that you're getting from customers on ground, Mr. Jain, since you head the association and the fact that you deal with a lot of traders and dealers on ground? Are customers waiting on the sidelines to buy more in anticipation of further fall in gold prices?
Well, I think India is a very unique market. When the prices start going down, we wait and watch. Once they stabilize, we start buying. Similarly, when the prices go up, we wait and watch, and when they stabilize, we go and buy. Now, I think in the current levels, the price correction, it seems, has happened, and consumers are back. But also, after the clarion call of a respectable prime minister, there's a lot of propelment around, exchange of old gold to new gold, which I think is a great sort of trend. The retailers are accepting old gold with open arms, and I think consumers are revitalizing and using the gold that was sitting in the lockers, perhaps changing them to new trends, and adornment is going to increase. So we're very happy with what's happening. And from our perspective, the current level of pricing, there's a lot of consumers ready to wait and buy. We also believe that there will be a bit of preponement of the wedding purchase that has to happen in the next 4 to 5 months, because this level of pricing, perhaps we've not seen for a long period of time.
Your prices have already corrected quite a bit, at least on a year-to-date basis, and perhaps demand is also now emerging and people don't expect price to fall further from the current levels. But let's also understand the trends that are shaping up with respect to central banks buying gold. And we've seen that happen over the last several years. What are the trends emerging with respect to purchase of gold by central banks globally, including the Reserve Bank of India?
I think, if you go back 30 years, and it's important to sort of, explain to your audience, 30 years back, central banks used to be the net sellers and the main consumption of gold used to be jewelry. What's happened in 30 years and fast forward to today, the usage of gold is very diversified. Central banks now contribute about 20 to 22% of the annual demand of gold. And that's continued, that's sustained, and that's to do with how geopolitics plays out. That's to do with a bit of de-dollarization. I mean, if you look at the global debt of the world, that's crossed $37 trillion, and currencies are getting printed left, right, and center, and hence the confidence on reserves being in dollar-denominated assets is reducing, and that's getting converted. And we at World Gold Council do an annual survey of the central banks, which we released a month and a half back. And what we came out as a survey is that central banks are looking at gold not from the short-term point of view, but a long-term sustained addition in their portfolios. So I think this trend of central banks buying should continue.
Okay, so the trend of central banks buying should continue. That's the word coming in. Ms. Jain, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us from the sidelines of the event. And we look forward to interacting with you more often. Thank you for joining us. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. More news and updates will continue on the other side.